Tzu Chi volunteers hold an aid distribution to help tornado survivors in Illinois of the United States. Acting as master of ceremonies, 2 doctors helped Tzu Chi volunteers hold an aid distribution for quake victims in Nepal. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Mary Lee. Thank you for joining us. We begin today's program in the United States. In early April, trouble brewed in Illinois as an EF4 tornado ripped through the Midwestern state, causing significant damage in Fairdale and Rochelle City. On June 20th, Tzu Chi volunteers from Chicago organized a distribution at the Rochelle City Hall for the tornado victims.
In April of this year, a massive tornado tore through the state of Illinois, devouring everything in its path. Several homes were completely pulled apart and destroyed as the tornado left a trail of destruction in its wake. Tzu Chi volunteers from Chicago traveled to the nearest disaster site in Rochelle to hold a distribution for the affected residents. Tzu Chi's sign language song moved many residents to tears. Volunteers made sure to treat the affected residents with compassion and respect as they handed the aid packages to them.
I think it's wonderful that you have a group of people that are willing to donate their time and money to come out and help complete strangers.
They both really liked the sign language portions of it really helped them connect with the group.
Arriving at the scene of the disaster with financial and spiritual relief, volunteers hope to help tornado victims rebuild their homes and lives as soon as possible.
Moving to Australia, earlier in April, the worst storm in a decade pounded New South Wales, which left some 210,000 households without power and countless residents homeless. Subsequently, Tzu Chi volunteers in Sydney held an aid distribution at a local elementary school on June 13th to help local residents deal with the aftermath of the flood.
With their homes submerged, residents of New South Wales were left with no choice but to evacuate. This is the worst storm that these residents have seen in a decade.
We went back in and our house the furniture was thrown everywhere and it was just silt and mud everywhere. And
we're in the hotel.
In order to assist affected residents, Tzu Chi volunteers in Sydney set out to the distribution venue before dawn. With the help of the community center manager, residents were informed about Tzu Chi's distribution. Besides monetary support and relief items, volunteers also brought spiritual encouragement.
It will be incredible. We were talking to people just yesterday who desperately needed some money to be able to buy a new front door and some new windows, and I know that's exactly what they're going to go and do with this card next week, is go and get those items they need to rebuild.
No, it's not the first time I've met Tzu Chi. I was in Charleville a few years ago when we had a flood there, and Tzu Chi came out and helped our people in our community there.
Along the corridor of the elementary school, Jingsi aphorisms are plastered all over the walls. Tzu Chi Academy students also made cards to encourage the disaster victims. Receiving these handmade cards, residents were left speechless.
Yeah, it's touching. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful place and we'll treasure that.
Because of Tzu Chi's relief efforts in Queensland a few years ago, these blue and white clad volunteers are not strangers to the local people. After the distribution, volunteers also prepared lunch for residents and ended the event with a sign language performance to extend their blessings to the flood victims.
Taiwan's cypress, cedar, and camphor are all highly sought after on the lumber market. As these species are protected, tree thieves have to risk their lives to hike into the mountain to chop down these trees in the middle of the night, while rangers, on the other hand, are also risking their lives to catch these illegal loggers. What if we tell you that the biggest tree thief was none other than the government itself, and that the current forest management policy was created to atone for its crimes of nearly wiping out Taiwan's forests? Here's more in our report.
We're inside a restored forest on Alishan. Next to me is the trunk of a 1,000-year-old Taiwan yellow cypress. The tree that used to sit on top was recently chopped down by tree thieves, who sawed it into small blocks for easier transportation.
发现一棵扁柏老树头遭盗伐。
Using a GPS locator, a ranger with the Forestry Bureau reports his location.
We patrol the forest every day, so when a tree goes missing, of course we were heard inside.
Taiwan's indigenous cypress and cedar are highly sought after, and therefore are the primary targets of illegal loggers.
Tourists from China especially love Taiwanese handicrafts made out of wood, such as a treasure ball. This is why trees are chopped into blocks.
Unchecked, tree thieves come and go as they please, leaving behind a clear trail in their wake.
The trash found at the campsite of these tree thieves, an area within a 100-meter radius of the camp, has accumulated to about 5 to 10 centimeters.
In this ungoverned land, tree thieves are king.
Our rangers are not classified as law enforcement personnel, so we cannot carry any weapons. Meanwhile, all these illegal loggers are heavily armed, which threatens the safety of our rangers.
At one point, Taiwan's natural forests were reduced to 30% of their original size due to logging.
Tree thieves typically come up at night. They might work alone or in groups, and will always carry a power saw.
To protect the forests, rangers typically go on a 5 to 10 day patrol deep into the mountains.
I carry a walkie-talkie, a backpack, a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, and some personal items.
Carrying 30 kilograms worth of equipment, rangers try to put a stop to illegal logging. By utilizing the gift of nature, rangers can set up a camp within 5 minutes.
To enjoy a hot bowl of instant noodles deep in the mountains is a blessing. We don't get to spend much time with our family. My youngest daughter was just born 2 days ago, but because of my mission, I can't be at her side. If the government's policy continues to ban the logging of these valuable trees, this will only drive their prices up on the black market, which gives tree thieves more of an incentive to do what they do.
Hoping to put an end to illegal logging, the government has raised the punishment to up to 10.5 years in prison as of this April.
If both punishment and fines are made more severe, added to the treat of all their equipment being seized, I think this will deter tree thieves from taking the risk.
Only recently did the government and public begin to value forest conservation in Taiwan. In fact, the biggest tree thieves in history were none other than the Japanese colonial government and the KMT government.
In those days, the government was broke, so trees were cut down and exported for money.
To make up for the sins of its past, the government now protects these high-valued species, which ended the livelihood of those who relied on logging to survive. In a way, all of the country's citizens and corporations that have brought harm to the environment and forests are to blame as well. So a proper management policy for Taiwan's forests should be devised to protect everyone's interests. Next, we meet 2 on-stage volunteers who have grown much from taking part in the upcoming musical adaptation of the Water Repentance Sutra in Malaysia.
One on-stage volunteer, Wei Jingfang, had bad habits for a long time.
I started smoking when I was about 19.
A tea restaurant owner, Wei Jingfang, was a carefree smoker who had been smoking for more than 20 years. Her smoking habit, however, left a bad impression on her customers.
Our tea restaurant needs to be clean and sanitary, and smoking gives people a bad impression.
Wei joined the musical adaptation of Water Repentance Sutra last year, and her behaviors changed as a result.
I used to smoke at least a pack of cigarettes every day. Now I am fine without smoking.
She gradually changed and has become more considerate.
The master said that we should treat everyone well. There's a saying, be gentle in that language. We should not scold others.
The prelude of the Water Repentance Sutra describes the perfect and radiant Buddha nature. Wei has learned from it, quit smoking, adopted a vegetarian diet, and embraced good habits. Next, we meet another onstage volunteer, Dr. Fu Zhiliang, who serves low-income families and refugees at the Tzu Chi Free Clinic Center in Kuala Lumpur. From treating the sick and poor, he began to understand that all realms are created by the mind. Taking off his doctor's robe, he took up the role of the skillful painter in the sutra adaptation.
The skillful painter creates a lot of things, but he also returns to his humble beginnings. Usually we let our desires run wild, but we forget our initial vow. I'm grateful to play the role of the skillful painter, as it reminds me to return to my humble beginnings.
How do you show strength on the stage? It's speeding up and stopping. That gives you strength going from slow to fast.
In fact, Dr. Fu learned dancing when he was little, so he's gradually regaining his dancing skills.
The most difficult part is to tame our frivolous thoughts. The skillful painter's strokes represent our wild fantasies. Now that I have to act it out on stage, I realized I have a lot of desire, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspension. Taming these thoughts is a tough challenge.
所以要把这些东西从沉淀，其实蛮考，没有办法先知先觉，但是也让我在每次的生活当中后知后觉。
From being a doctor to becoming an onstage volunteer, Dr. Fu has grown and learned to tame his desires as he gets ready to pass on the Dharma teachings through the sutra adaptation.
Tzu Chi volunteers in the Philippines have been bringing aid to Dreamland Village in Cavite Province since the area was struck by 2 devastating typhoons in 2007. Part of Tzu Chi's aid program includes a scholarship for students in need. And now, 8 years later, some of the scholarship recipients are graduating from college and beginning to work.
The residents of Dreamland Village are feeling a sense of hope in spite of their poverty.
I never thought I could graduate from college. I study not only for myself, but also for my family to have a better future.
Tzu Chi volunteers brought aid to Dreamland Village in 2007 following 2 typhoons and have been giving out material aid and scholarships since then. 8 years on, some college students are joining the workforce and leaving behind poverty, where elementary school students get to continue their education with Tzu Chi's aid.
Without Tzu Chi, my child cannot go to school. With Tzu Chi's help, she can study.
Mama, Papa. Mom, Dad, I want to become a good doctor and help those in need.
With Tzu Chi's aid, residents in Dreamland Village are lifting themselves out of poverty and becoming spiritually rich in the process.
In an interesting development, the last day of Tzu Chi's most recent aid distribution was presided over by 2 local doctors. The 2 men have been a part of Tzu Chi's activities in the days prior. Their experience and understanding of Tzu Chi, along with their ability to translate between Chinese and Nepalese, made them the perfect MCs for the event and important seeds for Tzu Chi going forward.
Today's distribution is being presided over by 2 local doctors. Using the local tongue, the pair leads everyone in prayer and guides participants through the distribution. Fluent in Chinese, the doctors also translate on behalf of the aid recipients. In fact, this is a day for which the 2 have been diligently practicing.
They are really great. They came to several of the preceding distributions to work with me. That laid the groundwork, and now I hope they can take on the responsibility of spreading this love themselves.
I was having fun. It's exciting to see that all the people are happy. to see when you are giving we are getting in return as a happiness. So it's good.
The doctors have been a part of several Tzu Chi events, ranging from free clinics to today's distribution. Today, one of the doctors is also joined by his wife.
Happy that I'm bound to them. I feel that I'm doing something very useful.
As volunteers walk among the crowd accepting donations, the doctors explain the meaning and history behind the bamboo coin bank. Many recipients happily donate, and in doing so, take the first step in going from recipients to donors of love.
Behind every distribution, every free clinic, and relief mission is a group of Nepalese volunteers who have been supporting Tzu Chi's disaster relief and medical team. At a recent school supply distribution in Bhaktapur, local volunteers from the Sway and Bunath and Maswari Tents communities were on site to lend assistance. Tzu Chi volunteers hope that this continued outreach by local volunteers will go a long way in bringing positive changes in the country.
At this distribution of uniforms and school supplies in Bhaktapur, local residents of the Maswari and Swayambhunath tent communities also came to assist. Following closely in the footsteps of Tzu Chi volunteers, local volunteers learned a great deal about Tzu Chi's distribution methods and humanitarian values.
As districts Nepal can meet, and we really hope that this is just the beginning, okay? Because all volunteers, we're volunteers of Tzu Chi, and we're all one family.
At the end of the distribution, a meet and greet gathering was held at the public library in Maheswari. Nima, who previously studied in India, was stunned to see the dilapidated condition of the library, but moved to see how children here continue to work hard despite their situation.
Some people are so poor and no need to money to pay in school, so that they come to this library and read some books here. I want to help them, but I am unable to give them.
Whether they are rich or poor, they have a sense of duty to help people. These young volunteers are teaching children in such a small, cramped space. And I think what they're doing is extremely remarkable.
Tzu Chi volunteers often say that one realizes one's own blessings after witnessing the plight of others. Indeed, many of these local volunteers were inspired to do more.
Through interacting with one another, I believe they can come up with more ways to help members of their community and do more for their country.
As there is strength in numbers, by working together, these young volunteers will be able to do more to help lift their country out from the depth of despair.
Tzu Chi volunteers in Nepal often find themselves called upon to fulfill many different tasks throughout the day. However, with determination and love in their hearts, these volunteers manage to successfully carry out their duties as they work on behalf of this country and its residents still struggling to rebuild.
When handling international relief distributions, Tzu Chi volunteers need to be ready to handle anything, and that is doubly true for general affairs volunteers who have to be on top of the inventory they manage.
Before, I was the beneficiary of the General Affairs Department. Now it is my turn to take care of everyone.
In Taiwan, Zheng Kaiwen worked with academic curricular planning. In Nepal, he handles the work on and off stage with equal aplomb.
We need to pay attention to the weather here. There are often thunder showers in the afternoon, so we will need to quickly get out the rain boots for the volunteers to wear with their uniforms.
As part of his many duties, Zheng Kaiwen recently prepared good luck charms for recipients at an aid distribution.
This represents accompanied by wisdom. This represents the tracks of history. Here we have the light of the spirit, and this finally means peace and good fortune.
Head of the 9th Disaster Relief and Medical Team here in Nepal, Shen Guofu, like Zheng Kaiwen, is also a multitasker, handling scheduling changes during rainy days, serving as an acting MC at distributions, and reading the master's letter in English when necessary.
I've worked in the coordination department, as a study group leader, as a kitchen volunteer, etc. Basically, I help out wherever I can.
Shen Guofu is a longtime volunteer in Taiwan. This is his first overseas disaster relief mission, however.
I'm not sure what inspired me to come here, with such a big disaster happening here in the birthplace of the Buddha. In a way, I felt like it was my karma to come here and help out with the disaster relief.
Connected to Nepal on some deeper level, Shen Guofu and volunteers like him know they're doing good starts from the commitment to do so.
Tzu Chi's 8 distributions in Nepal have successfully concluded on the 24th. In total, volunteers held 10 distributions in just 4 days. The 8th team of Tzu Chi volunteers was there every step of the way. And although their stay in Nepal has come to an end also on the 24th, 11 members of the team decided to extend their stay to further help residents in need.